welcome everyone. This is Lavender Sky Panther. Today is Monday, April 12th, 2021, and today's topic is called Sky Full. It's a collection of images and sky observations happening April 3rd through the 9th, 2021. And before we get into those observations, I'd like to say good day, osio, how, buongiorno, guten tag, kia ora, jambo, kedu, buenos dias, bonjour, ni hao, dzień dobry, konnichiwa, dobro honya, annyeonghaseyo, boa tarde, dobry den, aloha winala, kalimera, and hudendah. And today's starter image is of a blue iris plant in Miami, Florida. And there are a ton of varieties of these. There's white, yellow, purple. I think there's some other things. And they can symbolize so many things. In the case of the blue iris, it can be faith, hope, courage, truth and trust, abundance, and a divine link between heaven and earth, and of course, whatever meaning you bring to them. So I recommend you look up a little bit more about these fascinating flowers. And in the meantime, too, I was given a little friendly reminder in an interesting way this morning, just to speak about breathing deeply, beautiful fresh air in and out. A lot of us get kind of stuck in the day-to-day and maybe shallow breathe without realizing it. So do please take time to consciously breathe in a nice, healthy breath of fresh air, and just imagine and envision that oxygen just fueling the cells deep down into the stomach and throughout the body, and then exhale it back out deeply and just feel rejuvenated. And I wish everyone the best of health. All right, so let's get into the sky observations now. I give a heartfelt welcome and thanks to all of you for being here, whether you're new or returning to this channel. And if you are new, I talk about original photos and enhanced photos. And when I say enhanced, I simply mean I've edited attributes of the photo, such as brightness, contrast, color saturation, things of that nature, all in the aim of just bringing out or highlighting certain areas of interest in any given photo. I'll also drop in some letters here just to follow along. It just helps for that purpose instead of following the cursor sometimes, and also keeps me on target to talk about the key points on any given photo to keep a nice running time on the show. Now, there are going to be things happening in some photos, more than I can cover, but if there's something you really want to see enhanced, just let me know in the comment section below, and I'll be happy to do that and bring it up in a future show. There's going to be other things I'm going to touch on, but I'll go ahead and get to those as we move through the slides. So this is just one scene looking north at a sunset, and as you can see, I flagged these different little areas because we have a lot of different elements happening in one scene, all within proximity of each other. And if you've noticed in any of my other shows, I talk a lot about movement and energy and where things are going in the sky, and typically it's in ways and directions that kind of defy all logical physics of just wind blowing along with clouds. So in this case, that's an example. We've got this sharp angle, really almost like a 45-degree angle of something happening off of this puff of something, which isn't even a cumulus cloud. And then we've got this little thing on its own coming at another angle. We've got a strange cloud texture happening in here. There's just a whole lot of strange. This looks like a start of a triangular shape or something popping out of some cloaking material. Now, I am going to talk, if you're not familiar with some of my other shows, about cloaking craft, because there's just some things that are popping out in the skies lately, especially when we go to the enhanced version, which I'll do now, that you just can't explain with, just regular things that would occur naturally in the skies. And I've been on this planet for many decades, and I know the skies of yore, so to speak, and I see all of the changes and things that do not look, normal now, so that's why I go over these things. So anyway, when I talk about cloaking material, it's just going to be something implying that there's a cloaking craft beyond it or around it. And it just means, it's just my go-to phrase for something like plasma, something that's denser than just simple water vapor. That's what I'm referring to. And when I talk about cloaking craft going forward, because there may be some that pop up in this show, if they don't, a great show to see some of that is going to be Off-Field Sunset, one of my earlier shows. This is more just really strange cloud anomalies and potential cloaking things. Anyhow, I hope you can follow along and enjoy what I'm presenting today. So anyway, let's get into it. So we've got 8.1 with enhancement. I still couldn't really pull much out of here, although I suspect something's hiding in here. And again, this is just to show how odd of a configuration that is. This looks like something darker and more dense is poking up behind this cloaking material. I'm going to call it, because this even looks pipe-like or like tube-like coming down. And I will be zooming in on this too, just so you know, one more time at least. And again, this just looks odd. This looks like it has bright points. It looks like it has dimension to it and some cloaking material trailing off. This is also strange. Looks like it has a little trail, moving in behind it. And again, the motion is very telling in the direction some of these things are moving. So let's keep going. Now I zoomed in with some more enhancement on it just to exaggerate and kind of take our mind off of the typical gray or blue scenes in the clouds. I, put in extra different color on purpose just to get our mind, our brain to eye connection, looking at things in a different way. So I still see at C.1 some type of darker mass trying to pop out of here. So I'm going to say that's a cloak and craft. This has a point on it. It almost looks like it comes up conical or like a pyramid up with a little circular point there at D.1. So it looks like an object in there to me. And then again, B.1 looks like an object with a little trail behind it. A.1, I really just can't explain this. This doesn't happen in a natural cloud form. So something's going on. So whether that is something cloaking in there, like a cylindrical shape, or whether this thing is shooting something out from it, or, like there's a craft in here, or maybe this is just a, piece of this cloak and craft beyond here. Hard to say. See what you think is going on, though. All right, here we go. Another scene, and I'm going to go through some of these pretty quickly because I don't have too much recording time today. So I'll leave some of these scenes up to you to take a look around at your own leisure. But here we go. There's a lot going on in here that caught my attention, a lot of disruption, kind of chaotic things happening in this atmosphere. But what drew my attention was some of these shapes, some of these really pronounced shapes. There's actually something going on over here that looks like triangular shape that I didn't note. But anyway, this has like an egg shape to it, and they just seem to be standalone shapes, so that's already suspect in my mind. Then I see this little thing, it looks like more of a solid mass springing up from whatever this is. So we're going to look at that with some enhancement. And again, you just take a look at the overall nature of this. I really suspect that this could be a cloak and craft in here as well, and over here. And in addition to things happening, in these kind of isolated elements. Then we're going to look at that one little fragment I was looking at here at A, that's an original, and then we'll come here, it's also an original, and again, that just stands out as odd. Don't you agree? We've got this mass, and then if we look at just regular wind physics of something blowing along, and it really wasn't even that windy this day, there would be no reason to have isolated chunks this close together, and then something just going vertically up. Okay, so that's what I'm looking at. And then here we go, we're going to zoom in and see it with contrast. And we see solid bits in here. That dark black implies something of solidity. And again, it's just kind of moving up uncharacteristically for clouds and on its own. So that just really caught my attention. See what you think is going on in that scene. Then we have another one. This is now looking, actually, my apologies here. This is actually looking west, not north, but it's still towards sunset. Here we're looking at an overall scene. Now, these clouds, the upper right is the original photo. The overall character of everything was really choppy, a little bit fuzzy, and I like to call that staccato cloud when even to the naked eye things are a little choppy and fuzzy. It implies to me that there's some type of cloaking craft or other wave generator happening up above in the atmosphere, local, kind of creating this disturbance. And so whether it's electromagnetic waves or some type of waves, something is making this all choppy. Now, when I was looking at this overall scene, even in the upper right-hand corner, you see it. We not only have a very clear, straight, more or less straight edge happening within here, but we have a sharp angle coming up here, and it almost looks like it's a triangular form, and almost looks like like a fingerprint or a smudge print on the photo, but yet this is exactly how the photo was taken. So we go down at the enhancement, enlargement here, and look, there's something happening in here to disturb whatever's going on even within this disturbance, and you can just see it clearly. There's a shape happening there. So we'll look at it again and zoomed in. And sure enough, have a look here. So not only is there strange, it usually looks like cloaking material, but this has such a sharp angle and edge to it. There's just a lot going on. So there's something of good, interesting character happening in here. I can't quite define it. But then we also see darker shapes kind of looming here beyond, if you follow my cursor. Whether that's one body or two different bodies, it's hard to tell, with maybe cloaking going over it. But there's also these brighter points, so like at C and B, what's going on in here? So everything's really dark, and yet we've got these, bright points. So that always captures my attention, usually implies something is cloaking beyond. But see what you think could be causing this perfect kind of triangular shape and all of this other strange activity within the strange activity. Okay, then we're coming to another scene. This is looking west. And just this strange shape started moving in the sky. Again, we have some disturbance. And, at A, we kind of have like a backward crescent, moon shape. We have this other strange bent shape. Just a lot of strangeness happening in here. So we look at the right-hand side for an enhanced view. And there is still a whole lot of strange going on in the scene. So not only the color signatures, so we get warmer and then like greenish, and blues and grays, But look at 8.1. So we've got this, again, this rounded shape and another one here. Then we have this thing, which looks really odd, kind of popping out now in the foreground. So I'm going to say there is cloak and craft activity happening in here, although I can't quite put my finger on it, whether it's individual craft here and here and, maybe here in the foreground or something else, happening yet beyond it. But it just, and even here to the right, it just seems really odd what's going on. Again, as always, see what you think. I love these, as I say in other shows. The the camera phones just lend such great photosensitivity and light sensitivity ranges that we don't have with our human eye. So that's why when we do simple exercises of simple enhancements, you really start to see a lot of very interesting things popping out, and you'll see that coming up too. Now here's another view looking southeast this time at the sunset. And this just popped out, letter A. It's just strange how there seems to be an object, the clear line around it and even a break around it. And then also just the overall scene, just, this cloud's coming down an angle while this is going straight. This looks like a peak up in here, like a triangular, top of a triangular form. And then we have this, which looks like something is zooming down. It has its own color signature, which is very different from the rest. And with light physics, there's no way that this would just be catching color way down here and nothing else right in the same vicinity, would not, even at that angle and altitude. So it's just really bizarre. So we'll look to the right. Here at B1, I'm talking about that color signature, and again, you see a trail. It looks like this just decided to zoom down from somewhere, so I'm calling that a cloak and craft. There's also some crystalline forms happening in here, white crystalline, just kind of, what do I want to say, like a line popping out, so that implies to me that there's something cloaking in here as well. And again, there's that triangular form I'm talking about. Those are perfect lines and edges that don't occur in nature. Looks like something darker is here poking out. That could very well be cloak and craft activity in there as well. And then as to what 8.1 is, I'm not really sure, but I do see some kind of structure. This along here too is a very crystalline form. There's a lot of plasma kind of around this thing, which is my telltale sign for things are cloaking. Something darker is probably hiding in there as well. So we'll look in one more time, zoomed in on the A element. So here's 8.2, and look at that, it almost looks like a pipe, an angle popping up with an opening. And then this is some other kind of, rectangular or tubular form happening here with crystalline structure to it and depth and dimension. Again, this triangular form looks actually really like hard and mass-like happening behind there now, like hiding behind this. And there are a lot of little bits and pieces poking out. This now looks like a clear triangular form or a couple of them hiding in there. And then we still have this, which I'm just seeing too much evidence, especially down at sea now. You can really see that little element that looks like the end of a tube or a pipe. And again, as I said before, this B.2 element seems like a craft zoom down in here because you even see a little trail with similar worm signature tucked in there happening. So there is a lot going on in this photo. See what else you can find and enjoy having a look around and see what you think. And as I always say, if you have any other opinions, I'm just presenting my point of view on these things and my perspectives. But if you see anything of interest or just have some fantastical fun ideas of what any of this could be, let me know in the comment section below. Alright, this one's pretty simple and straightforward. We're looking east at a sunrise. I'm just looking at these two little lonely, solitary forms that just happen to be passing by in an ocean of otherwise quote-unquote clear sky. But off in the distance we have some dark clouds forming to kind of obscure the sunrise coming up. I talk about that phenomenon in another show. But anyway, it just seemed odd that those were the only two odd men out, so to speak. So we're going to take a look at them. Now, I put some enhancement. You start to see a darker, solid mass hiding in and among this kind of cloaking material. And then this has some white reflective parts with some shadow, so I'm calling that an overall cloaking object in that little one as well. Now, when we put the enhancement, we also see this beautiful, actually beautiful red-pink color in the background starting to form. And if you look in my description box below, I cover what that red-pink light phenomenon could be. So let's keep moving. We're going to zoom in a little bit more. This time I've taken all color out again to help us look at things in a different way by removing the color, and the brain to eye connection starts to change when we do that. So anyway, we've got 8.2. Again, I start to see a reflective, these white points seem to be catching light. And then these actually might be two separate objects. It's hard to say, or this could be overall one object with cloaking material kind of masking it. And then, which I think might be the case because it seems like these are parallel. Like two arms off of one overall form. Actually, this even starts to look symmetrical, this point over here and this point over here. So I'm going to call that one overall, what is that, 1, 2, 3, 4, kind of like a flattened hexagonal form, at least on this angle is what it looks like. And then that's a darker form. So I'm definitely calling those two things cloak and craft happening at the east horizon on sunrise. Now this is the cover photo in its original state. Gets real interesting, obviously, when we put enhancement on it. But we're going to look at A and B for now. This is a crescent moon happening over here. But what's interesting about this is you're going to watch the color signatures, and it's also the cloud forms and types. So this is some type of, I'm going to call that artificial cloud formation, because that's not a typical cloud that you could ever name historically. And then we have these bands of something also kind of happening down on this angle, opposing this angle. They actually repeat over here to yet again a different angle. It's like this thing is emerging between these two bands. And then we have this down here, which I cover in other shows. I call them sky wisps or air elementals. They can even be called sylphs. I cover it in other shows. And I give credit to Skywatcher, who brought my attention to the whole idea of sylphs. Anyway, there seems to be an imprint happening in here. To learn about imprints, also go see some of my previous shows with imprint in the title. And then down here we've got these dark, completely different types of cloud, and I'm going to use cloud in quotes because this looks completely artificial. So it's flat, it's got these weird kind of spear-like ends to it. That's not a normal cloud either. So let's look at this with some enhancement, and there we go. Look at this thing at B.1. It's beautiful. Even looks like it has like a hole in it with something coming out, like plasma coming out of it. And there's some little weird blobby object happening over here. And we've got this strand here. So look at the color signatures alone. There's no way that only this thing and then this strand would pick up this color signature and everything else next to it would not. So that's already kind of, an anomaly in and of itself. And then look, how can this stay pure white again while this is golden below and we've got warm color above? It's just really impossible. So this I always call is like a animal on its own, in its own right. So it's its own type of wisp that I call, and the origins of where these things come to me seem to be a little more supernatural. I believe they come in from somewhere else and maybe even do kind of a cleanup of the atmosphere, from all of the artificial garbage being put into it by, well, we'll just say mankind, but maybe other entities. Anyway, let's take a look at this because it looks like there's a little brighter point here that could be something happening. It looks like there's a trail behind it as well. I think I do zoom into it again. Yeah, it'll come up again in a moment. So here we go. We're just looking at a similar scene. We're looking at that imprint, but also looking a little more toward the east. Here I see it looks like a triangular imprint happening in here over by B. When we look at the right-hand side of the enhanced version, here we see that imprint. There's a lot of weird activity happening above here. It doesn't really come out so clear, but I'm venturing to say there is something cloaking or starting to emerge in the atmosphere over in this area. Then we've got the little crescent moon there again, and something strange is happening in here. Just look at this overall character. That's no typical cloud. That's just hands down not. And we just see this imprint happening a little bit more at the same time. Then we're going to look in, zoom in on that. I didn't think we had one more, but we do. So we're zooming in on that imprint with what I thought was wisps. Now, when I've seen the wisps, I've noted on other shows, they also sometimes seem to be hugging geometrical shapes. So they could also just be a type of cloaking, a form of cloaking on some of these things, where the imprint could be an object there. It just looks, like a void. It could be just something interdimensional. So in this case, I do think this is an object cloaking, with this wisp stuff, forming its edges. And then we have something strange happening too here. Up here it looks more rectangular. I don't know. There's just a whole lot of strange happening in here. See what you think is going on. All right, then we're going to pan over to the east a little bit more from that scene where we were just at. We just see some weird sweeping activity arcing up and then arcing down, and it looks like a force field or some kind of toroidal or other kind of force field is in front of this thing, and then this is angling yet down again in another weird pattern. So we're going to look at the letters A, B, C, and D on this one with enhancement, and here we go. What's noteworthy here is, again, we have golden warm colors happening below, but then pure white in the middle, and then reddish signature again up above. So again, I think that red-pink light phenomenon, and again, look at my description box below for what that could be, is happening up in here. And then the white, I think, again, is just a phenomenon on its own. And then we've got yet other material happening down here, which I think is a very artificial masking of the sunrise coming up. I talk about that on other shows as well, of why that could be happening, and the notion of an artificial sun or solar simulator covering and obscuring our original sun, which is somewhere on beyond behind it. Anyway, 8.1, look at this. Not only is this, everything's moving at different, angles and sweeping gestures here, but look at this too, at the tail end of 8.1, I'll call this the end. This is springing up vertically and hooking over. So again, there's no natural cloud phenomenon that does that. Again, assuming that there's, regular airflow, which there would be, if any, because it really wasn't windy at all this day. Is this, 3 or 4 different elements happening, or is this all part of one? I don't know. See what you think. Like, I could see where maybe this is all connected here back at the tail end, but then again, maybe it's just 2 separate entities. I can't explain this flip up here going vertical and hooking around. Anyway, see what you think is happening in this one. Then we're going to zoom in on that little piece down in the middle at D.2, and just looking again, it just looks like some field of force field or something is coming out ahead of this thing. And then we'll look at it with some enhancement. You can see this clear line, and this kind of some little thing that looks like now that this thing's projecting off of this. Looks like a separate little object. Again, just so many strange things are happening in these photos. Do take a moment to look on your own time as well. Then we go to upper right hand corner. We have original photo. Just seemed really strange. Imprints happening in the north at sunrise. And then we go down below to see the enhancement. Again, I see a triangular imprint, the void, formed by plasma or some other material or wisp material happening around it. B1 looks like the imprint of a kind of a regular rectangle, and then something strange happening at C.1. So we're going to look at it again a little bit differently, zoomed in. Again, here's that imprint. Let's just actually spend our time over on the right-hand side at the enhanced version. So here's an imprint, clear as day. It looks like also these little objects are zooming in with their own trail into this imprint. That's what I say. I say 1, 2, 3 little points, 4 maybe, with little trails. This might be another thing kind of zooming in. And then we have a little point over here. So this overall thing looks like an imprint or a cloaking craft. And something else strange is happening up in here. See what you think and see in there. Okay, now this is looking to the south at the sunrise. And then we've got elements A and B. So we already see this pointed elliptical form happening over here at A. And B, I did note it for a specific reason. Oh, this little piece here also has a specific shape. So let's look at this with some enhancement. And here's that B.1 shape, a little weird little fragment of a triangle here. And then again, I'm not exactly sure what's going on here. Is this a craft also popping up out of this thing? Or is this just something helping to form the rim of this shape and cloak it? I don't know, but look at this thing sitting in the sky. There's a lot of disturbance here, the staccato cloud as I like to call it. It's a musical term, I'm sure a lot of you know that. It just means like interrupted and choppy. Kind of no rhyme or reason to this thing. And then down below it looks like it's kind of more sitting on a plateau of more even horizontal material that just kind of flares up and jagged and, again, nonsensical ways. See what you think is going on here? I think also this is some type of interdimensional or other craft, popping up and flying off at the edge. But see what you think. Now we're going to zoom in on that pointed elliptical element just to see if we can get at anything more when we highlight it a bit. And we got AA and BB. That's that little area there for BB. And here we go. So I didn't really pull out in much more detail as I had hoped. Other than this little fragment, again, looks pretty solid, like with a trail, like it's popping up off of this overall thing, whatever it is. Whatever this thing is resting on a bed of something. But see what you think is happening in there. Now we're still looking south, and this gets really weird. So not only do we have also this chaotic atmospheric disturbance happening above at A, level A, then we look at B and we start to see like a midsection of a different kind of cloud activity. And then at C down here, this is a whole nother animal in and of its own. So we'll look to the right at the enhancement. So again, we got A, this choppy weird material, just kind of showing up. I'm not even going to call that cloud. And same thing here, it's doing its own thing and in really weird form. And then this too, popping up on angle. Again, what did I say? This is all in the same atmospheric altitude, really. And then here, if we had just wind blowing across, in days of yore, we just would have a puffy cumulus cloud, nothing that looked like all of this. And we'd never have one cloud going up while we have one cloud going across. So again, to me, there's something hiding in here, cloaking here as well. And this might be some interdimensional form of something arriving or leaving. Okay, and then we're going to look at another view of this. If we go even here at A was the choppiness. Here was that triangular element, doing its own thing. And now things are starting to shift and move in that middle section. And then we're also now getting lines coming across with a sharp angle over here. Again, looks kind of like an imprint or force field in front of this thing. And then at C, we've got a darker blanket of cloud. Again, to me, this is all very artificial cloud that pops up at times, especially of sunrise and sunset. And it moves up like a wall to obscure the sun coming up or the sun going down. And that phenomenon is covered on other Earth and Sky Watching channels, which I hope you are looking around at everybody. All the other YouTube channels too, to see what people are presenting from around the world. Evidence, just like me, regular person, going out and documenting what we see every day. or nearly every day whenever we can. Okay, here's the same scene with enhancement. And now, hang on one second. Okay, I'm back. So this time I'm just looking at 8.1. There just seems to be a perfect little triangle hanging out here. B.1, same thing. Seems to be a weird little triangle with some dark shadow and maybe like a harder point to it happening right in there. And then C.1, I think I was just trying to get at this blanket material happening below. Anyway, once again, see what you find in that scene. Then this is another scene now looking southeast. And again, we've got that chaotic disturbance happening above, which doesn't look like any normal natural cloud formation. Looks very artificially generated. Look at the movement to this. We're going to see it better to the right in the enhanced version. But here we're just looking at overall disturbance. Then at A, then at B, we've got these weird shapes with weird structures happening in them. And then C, there's like this dark shadow happening below with weird stuff happening above it. So look to the right at the enhanced version. Again, you just see this burst of motion. It's almost circular, kind of moving, if you follow my cursor, moving along this way, clockwise. But it's bursting out of a pretty level situation here. And then again, we've got this weird structure happening in on this thing and another form happening in here. See what you think is going on in that scene. We're going to zoom in more on this little weird structure forms, happening in here, just to see if we could see anything more. I just still have more questions than answers on this one, but I start to see like an elliptical form in there, an ellipse happening over here, some weird little things happening in here too. And again, like always, are we looking at the substance of what's forming these shapes, or is this an imprint and the real thing is happening within it? As far as a craft, I'm not sure. Here now, when we go to CC.1, we see also it looks like something is emerging in this scene. Little things flying off of the top of this cloud. This reminds me of my rim watching 2 show, where things sometimes just perch or kind of sit parked on the profile of some of these clouds, and then you can see sometimes that they shoot off if you take multiple photos and frames to catch the sequence. Okay, here on on the left-hand side is the original photo. Again, strange disturbance happening way above. It's a cloud form all in of its own. And then we have something emerging here at B. And then C, we also have, an overall mass that's, very different in character from everything else. So we're going to look at, to the right-hand side, at the enhancements. Now at A.1, we just see what's going on a little bit more within that activity. Something's going on in here. Then we go to B.1. Again, this is coming out on its own. It's a triangular shape with a triangular imprint in the middle with something happening in the middle of that. Looks like something's flying off. And then we go down to C.1 and we see an object sitting in here within this darker form. Again, whether that's a solid or an imprint, hard to tell. So your guess is as good as mine on this, but here, look down even below. This is where the sun is supposedly rising up, and there's another solid mass of an artificial cloud form happening over that. And this looks very artificial as far as the sun. Once again, I defer to my earlier shows that talk about solar simulator, artificial sun. All right, we're going to zoom in one more time on that overall lower portion. Again, this is looking very fake and masked out. We look to the right, and then we even see a reddish pink signature popping up over where I thought that was an artificial sun. Again, look in the description box for what could be happening there in earlier shows. And then we're going to look at B.3. Definitely that's a ring around something of cloaking material or some other material. And then this looks like something's hiding and popping out in here too. See what you think's happening in this very intriguing scene. Then we've got this one, a little more straightforward, happening to the south. Looks like a wisp, but look at this clean edge of a curve. You can't really get much more clean on an edge than that. And then we've got other kind of just like vapor or plasma popping up out of here with a little brighter point starting to emerge. So you better believe we're going to look at this with enhancement. Now, 8.1, I don't get it too much, but it does look like this is a little separate object peeling off of this mass. Definitely still looks like something's happening in here. This actually looks like a cat face or a panther face. I'm a little partial to that. But we have ears. It looks like 2 ears in the face, in the front of the face to me right there. Anyway, that's just a little tongue-in-cheek look at it. But it is symmetrical. So I'm going to say something's cloaking there as well. But now we'll go to 8.2 just to see what that little element popping off there is. And we get a little more detail, looks like, with structure to it. So this could even be a little structure popping off of this main mass with something else popping off of that. See what you think. Then we're going to look at this one. This was just weird. Once again, looking to the northeast. This is actually towards sunset now, so we've got these 2 curves echoing, but staggered, 2 separate things. We've got something strange forming over at A. So we'll take a look at the right, and I don't want to get too much more out of these double curves down here, but we do start to see something very interesting happening at 8.1, and we've got this weird wisp-like thing happening above, which is totally out of character with these other elements. So when we look at 8.1, we see this is a very sharp corner. It looks like the edge of a triangular imprint or a bigger object. But what gets real interesting is whatever's happening down here. It looks like it has a definite structure to it. So we go up to 8.2 to look at that thing, and we've got two holes that look pretty symmetrical. This thing looks like it has intelligent design to it to me, and I think it's only part of something that we're looking at. And then look again, we've got something popping up off of here and trailing this way, while something's trailing this way, interlocking almost. So what the heck is going on here? I have no idea. But once again, if you have any fun or even entertaining ideas about this, let me know in the comment section below. Then we've got this scene. We'll spend time on the enhanced version to the right. So hang on one second. Okay, so we have this obvious triangular form. We've got a really straight edge, something crossing it here, something happening over here. So I'm not sure if this is overall one thing or two different elements or an imprint just with fancy packaging around it, so to speak. There's definitely something happening in here though. So again, see what you think. And also what's very curious is this red-pink color signature once again. Very interesting of what that might be. Also this weird stuff trailing off over to the side. I don't know, there's just so much going on in here. See what you think is really happening. Then we've got, this is a little more simplistic. We've got elements A and B. Go to the right. Element 8.1, look at that. This looks really peak-like. It has shadow. Looks like it has definite forms to it. And then look at B1 below. It's catching this red signature again. This looks like a very defined triangular form. And actually with different enhancement, you also see a bar coming along the bottom. So like there would be a big void of a triangle formed by these 2 or 3 crossbars. I'm not sure what more is going on in there, but I can tell you that isn't normal. Then we go to this scene looking northwest in the morning, a little bit later in the morning past sunrise. So look at this. We've got these bands, which imply some kind of electromagnetic wave activity. We have a void or swath happening in the middle, and then it picks up again. What the heck is going on? Then we've got very artificial, like pilled or puddling cloud coming out over, again, what I'm going to call a very artificial sun. It's white. It's glaring. It's not like our true warmer golden sun of days of yore. And then we even at letter A have artificial tech exposed. This is what actually Nigel's View on Things, another YouTuber who does great captures out of the UK, has referred to these as petal lenses. And they come up like a flower around what's an artificial sun, and they have a very red-pink signature. You only catch them certain angles at certain times. I think I have another example, better example, pops up in the show later. But here, look, that's the only thing bursting out with that red-pink color. It's not a lens flare, and it's part of this petal system, which you'll see in a minute, and I've also captured it on other shows. So here we're going to look at this element. We'll get to the other petal stuff later. But again, we got this weird wispy-like material that, does have structure to it in and of its own right, within its own rhyme and reason. We have this staccato cloud happening up above, and we have like this little chunk over at 8.1, and this little puff happening at B.1 and C.1. So we're going to take a look at it with a little more enhancement. Sorry, these should all say A2, B2, C2. But anyway, you can see there's like a standalone element here, a backward curving crescent there, and it looks like something's emerging here. See what you think is going on in this overall strange scene. Then here we go. Here's the petal lenses I was talking about over on the right-hand side. You can see them. We caught the top of it before, and now we see this edge, and it's all around this thing. Do look at my other shows about solar simulators. There are patents. You can even just do a basic internet search and see them. Patents applied for and pulled for solar simulators and artificial suns. You can see it here. That's not in any way, shape, or form lens flare. My lens flare actually is right over here. So anyway, we've got this artificial sun, petal arrangement around it of lens work up in the sky. We have this element here at B, and we have a whole lot of other weird elements happening here, including these long wave bands. Again, could be electromagnetic waves or some other type of wave activity, artificial, happening up in the sky. We look at the right, and we'll see, again, these clear forms. These all have red signature now, red-pink signatures, and then we can see these bands happening below. What's going on in this one? Can't tell you. See what interesting angles you might have, but I can tell you there's a whole lot of artificial going on, and more than likely cloak and craft happening in here. Okay, this scene is looking north, again late in the morning, then later than sunrise. And we have, again, what's going on here? A, this is not a cloud form. B, there's something crisscrossing back the other way. So is that chemtrails? I think so. Or it could be something else. And do look at previous shows about chemical trails. There's a whole lot of evidence supporting it. And then look down at C. We've got this wisp-like activity with a little force field band happening out in front of it, echoing. And then this weird kind of, I can't even call that a cloud. That's not a natural cloud. And it's trailing, stuff trailing down at this hard angle. So all these different angles, different cloud types, all happening in one area. What the heck is going on? So we're going to look at it with enhancement. And again, here I see a triangular form popping out. Maybe something happening here too. And then again, look at this. There's nothing normal about this. There's another triangular form hiding with some little cloaking material around it. I'm just going to put a big question mark on this page. See what you think. All right, we're going to zoom in, though, before we're done with it. Here's that triangular form, little piece popping off to the side. Just everything has different consistency. This makes no rhyme or reason as far as a cloud form. If anything, it has like a triangular peak at the top and something triangular happening in here. And other little weird forms seem to be rising up to it or floating down out of it, depending on how you're looking at it. This looks actually like a little trail that something bursts out of this overall assembly. So I'm calling that cloaking craft, hands down. Okay, this one's called Strange Clouds, Activity at Sunrise. Again, this little grouping was the only thing floating around. It just looked really odd. Little pieces and parts. This even looks really strange, like it's jutting up out of this form. So let's look at it with some enhancement. And here we go, we get a better look. 8.1, it looks like something's kind of laying flat, like a pointed ellipse here on the top of whatever this thing is. And then we have a weird little appendage happening out here and here, little things happening off to the side. And then look at C.1, that is a clear, solid black triangle happening behind some cloaking material. There's no other way to look at it, really. And then there's another triangular form happening there, another odd shape happening here. Looks like something cloaking deeper behind that, maybe in here as well. See what you think is going on. We're going to look at this overall form a little bit more. I'm not going to belabor this point too much, but I want you to see the difference of what's more solid mass with cloaking material popping up in front of it, and what is, more like cloaking material happening around the fringes that define some of these objects. So here you get a real clear view of that. This is a very different consistency than whatever's happening here. This actually looks like a triangular form, like sticking into this other form, whatever's going on in here. And this looks like something's kind of flying on its own. See what you think is going on in there. Now we're going to go to a different area of town and look east at sunset. And again, this is looking east, but there's a lot of red and pink down here toward the horizon and weird cloud forms. So we're going to take a look at that. And bam, you see it so much better with enhancement. And we've got that red pink signature happening really low on this one. And then look at this, what's going on here? What are these forms? It just, again, if air is just moving along in one direction, you can't have all of this movement at different angles. Look at this thing coming down on this angle, and then we've got this like curve around or pointed ellipse kind of effect. Yeah, I'm not sure what's going on here, so you see what you think is going on in that scene. Now we're going to flip around to the southwest from where we were just looking, and look at this. This is really an odd man out, so to speak. We've got this clear form, and then these bars, these bands, and it's dark gray, while everything else is maybe light pink. So what's going on? We're going to look with enhancement so you can better see what I'm talking about. Look at this. This is its own little animal. And I don't know if something's shooting off of it or this is moving this way and that's the result of it moving. But look at these bands. These have shadow and a highlight rim. What is that? They look like steps, and then it's right hugging into this, red-pink color. We go up to the upper right at 8.2 to look at it without color to see if we get any more clues of what could be going on. See little bits of reflective points and straight edges, but other than that, we can't really get into what's happening in that mass. See what you think on this one, as always. Now we're going to pan a little bit more to the west from where we were with that weird mysterious shape, and this is what we get. Now I'm looking at A and B because I see pure white. Looks like an object coming down on this angle while we have this coming at the opposing angle. And then once again, we've got this weird activity happening here, and there seems to be something hiding in here at B. So we're going to look at this with enhancement. And here we go. You just see something interrupting this little whatever's happening in here as it is. Color signatures are very odd for everything, where it picks up red and orange and where it doesn't. And again, these are parallel, these lines echoing each other. So that's some kind of intelligence activity happening in here. We're going to go to 8.1 and zoom in on 8.2. And again, you just see a bright object poking up out of here. And then we go to B.1 area, and there's this popping up out of it. So to me, there's cloak and craft happening in here. Exactly how or how many, I can't tell you. See what you think. Now, this is the photo of the week and the close of the show, and this photo comes into us today from Aesthetic Girl. So thank you, Aesthetic Girl, for sending this in. Beautiful photo of the western horizon, and we just have these bands coming. This I did enhance what came in though, just to really better get at what was happening. So you just see these straight lines, kind of like a painted sky happening below. But then look at this freeform thing happening above, more red, pink in signature. And once again, it just has a weird form. This is going up on angle. It just didn't make any sense because this is still very low in the atmosphere, not very high at all. And yet we have two completely different characters and color signatures and movements. Anyway, see what you think is going on in there. And for now, I wish everyone a gorgeous week ahead, even more beautiful now, and tremendous love and peace to you all. Lavender Sky Panther. Bye.